Do you find that the non-comedogenic on products is even meaningful, or is it basically just a marketing ploy?
It's not regulated. So these claims that skincare companies are using in marketing, they're not regulated, so they don't have to actually like file or submit anything to make the claim. So it's like, how do you get that confidence back? Ingredient awareness.
What are we using for dish soap? What are we using for your laundry detergent? These become endocrine disruptors.
Now I have to go find a new brand.
This is Keep It Clear, real conversations about skin, acne, and women's health without the overwhelm. Because you deserve answers that actually make sense. Today's episode starts now. So fun fact about me is the way I got into the health and wellness space was actually through my beauty skincare products. I must have been like 19 years old at the time. And my mom gave me this book called There's Letting Your Lipstick by Gillian Deacon. And I remember being like, Mom, like, you're so annoying. My skincare products, my makeup, my hair care is all great. But I had this 6-foot-long makeup table with like an out-of-hand amount of beauty care products. I know this is shocking for Cris to hear because I'm still like that to this day. And I remember sitting down and opening the book and like cross-referencing and flipping the back of every single product I had and being like, what are you? I was like enraged at the fact that manufacturers were putting not just one hormone-disrupting, cancer-causing ingredient in my products, but several. And I had been applying these since I was a kid. So this was actually what I like to say was like my gateway drug into the health and wellness world, was looking at the ingredients in my products. So that's why, Marlee, I was so excited when you reached out. Not only are you a former client from the Clear Skin Solution, but you founded this really great app that helps you learn about ingredient transparency. It's great for acne sufferers. So I would love to hear, Marlee, what's the origin story behind Klenzera?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of times, especially with having the background of going through the program with you guys, having that background of being impacted by a problem is really when things start. So I had been battling with acne for about a decade, and this started in like college era. And yeah, just going through then my mid-20s to late 20s, and I'm like, I'm still battling acne, and I need some sort of solution to help me. And I know that there's a lot of factors that contribute to why someone might have acne, but ingredients can be one of them. And I had then found out what these pore-clogging ingredients were, and I start looking into them. And I'm seeing, shopping down the aisles, I'm seeing products that are marketing as acne safe, and then finding out that there's pore-clogging ingredients in it. And so I was like, this is so frustrating for someone who's struggling with acne and having sensitive skin and can't have confidence in the products I'm buying. So it's like, how can I create some sort of a tool that makes this easy for me? So that's kind of where Klenzera started from, because I wanted to focus on the ingredient transparency and allow myself to be confident in the products that I'm purchasing, that it's going to work, with my skin and not against my skin. So I was like, let's find an easy way to identify pore-clogging ingredients. And that was kind of the origin and the basis of it all, but certainly stemming from having the problem myself and experiencing like what it's like to have acne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's the frustrating part, right? Is, you could be doing all of this work, but if you're not aware of the ingredients you're putting on your skin, not just from a pore clogging perspective, but also do they have hormone disrupting ingredients in it where like that's going into my body, because your skin's not a catch-all. Your body's going to start absorbing things. So are there things that are overwhelming my liver when I'm trying to detox? Are there things mimicking my hormones when I'm trying to balance my hormones? So it's so important to be able to find the pore clogging and the transparency around ingredients, because as you know, Marlee, is manufacturers, like, they get away with quite a bit. It's actually insane what they can get away with.
Yes. Yeah. Especially in the States. And now I can say that I get a new experience now that I'm living in Germany, and EU has some different standards, but the States, I think, have been a lot more lax on that compared to EU and Canada. And they're allowing a lot more things in their products. And and it's concerning when you're trying to find something that's going to support your skin,
Yeah. And for you, you're obviously no stranger to acne. You dealt with it for a decade. And when you came into the Clear Skin Solution, I think you were with us last year, you were with us, is how did you find that knowledge with your app, bringing it into your work in the Clear Skin Solution?
It was actually when I first started understanding what pore-clogging ingredients were, it was in like the end of 2023. I had first found this out, and I was like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. Like, why isn't this like general knowledge? And then started having the idea, start developing the business and everything in 24. And then But of course, I'm still struggling with acne and still not fully understanding how my body is working and the systems I have going on in my life, how it's impacting my acne. So that's why when I got into your program, it was so like eye-opening to then understand all these other factors that are contributing, but then also to start understanding what's personalized like to my own body too. And that went into, I think, just having more awareness in general of the impacts of acne, but still within the app, trying to keep the focus on the ingredients. Because as you had mentioned, when we, there's so many other factors, but I feel like you can be doing everything right in the sense of eating and lifestyle and diet and nutrition and all of this. But when you're still in like this constant loop of exposure to maybe harmful products or products that are working against your skin, I feel like you get stuck in that loop and you can't like get out of it if you're still getting exposed to pore-clogging ingredients or whatever.
Yeah, Cris, I want to bring your opinion in on, because I know you love this stuff, is, well, skincare may not be Chris's game.
I thought you were going to say, you love skincare. And I'm like, who are we talking about?
Yeah, Cris could just be sipping her coffee and listening to us chat right now. But I want to take from the perspective of like, when clients are coming in, they're doing so much work on their hormones and their liver and their detox systems, but they're just, slathering on chemicals unknowingly. This is why skin barrier and skin ingredients is such an important part of the program. So what's that impact that we're finding of, getting rid of those chemicals in order to support the body organs?
Yeah, 100%. We might see it in elevated lead, sometimes some mercury, some cadmium, some heavy metals for sure. And listen, heavy metals aren't the easiest to rid from the body, fair. So it's also about mineral displacement. So when toxins come in or your body is just burdened, that throws off the mineral complement, and then the body just cannot, work as efficiently as we want it to. So we do see it quite a bit. More is always better. That's kind of when people come in, that's the attitude they have, is more is better. And then when they leave is less is ideal. So it's a nice transition to see that we don't need 700 things on our skin. The body can't even process that much in one time, right? So if you put all these, the makeup and the nail polish and the eyeliner and, the hair care, and this is all a compounded load. Add it to the shampoos, add it to the fragrances. My least favorite thing, everyone, in life is perfume.
That's a scary one.
Yeah.
Like there's cleaner perfumes and I'm fine, but I'm like, put it on your clothes. Like, don't spray it in my house. And like, sometimes I say that
she has
like
3 daughters, by the way, Marlee. She has 3 daughters. So
$3. So I'm like, that smells like bug spray, but that's my least favorite thing because that lingers. And if, the kids, they love to put it in their hair, or like women. So every time they do then they just do the ha-ha. It just smells because it does. They can't smell it, so they add more. And they're carrying that with them every single day. And then they wonder why potentially we have hair shedding or brittle hair or dry hair. It's just all chemical compounds, right?
I remember at one point in my acne journey, it was before I had, a couple of years before I had joined with you guys, that I was always spraying, Bath and Body Works, terrible, like right on my chest and on my neck. And it's like, no wonder why I was also getting acne on my chest. Now, of course, I know that wasn't the only reason, but it's certainly adding to it. Yeah.
I know, it's like, you don't know. It's especially like, I feel like today, like the next generation's a little bit more aware of ingredients. But like for so many of us, we didn't grow up with this type of transparency around ingredients, whether it's, harmful ingredients, it's pore-clogging ingredients. Like we had no idea. We're just slathering these things on. And it really is such a big contributor to our health. So I'm curious, Marlee, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey in the Clear Skin Solution, because I think it's so great that you have this pore-clogging app business, which is so great. And then you were able to go through and bring that knowledge into your own journey. So tell us a little bit about like, where was your skin when you first started with us, and what was the journey like throughout your time?
I remember, so I think I started with you guys at like in the March or April timeframe. And I think things initiated in March. And I had just went through such a bad breakout in like the January, February timeframe. And I think it was because I had done like a detoxification kind of a program. But now that I know, ahead of time. Now it's clear to me that I didn't have the detox pathways cleared to even support that kind of thing. So I start doing this detox thing, but my system's already overloaded. So what happens? It comes through my skin. And I'm like, why am I having this terrible breakout? And I was like, I have to do something about this. And this is when I started initiating, like working with you guys. But one of the biggest eye openers, I think, was doing that HTMA, the hair trace mineral analysis, and then working with Cris on it. But Cris, I think there's a fly on your camera. So working with Cris on the going through what my results were, that was really eye-opening to see. Yeah, heavy metal. I was high, I think, in mercury. I was higher in lead, and I ended up doing the cortisol test too, and my cortisol was pretty high. So I think going through the program, I was learning a lot about like what was actually impacting my body and why it was then contributing to the skin quality. But also, yeah, learning a lot about learning to have grace for my skin as well was really important in the journey, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, right, Cris, is learning to have that grace.
That's a huge one. And that's the one, like a broken record. I feel like a broken record, but it's so pinnacle. It's learning the body's insufficiencies, the capabilities. Like, your body is always capable. It will always try and show up for you, no matter what. It does day in and day out. And if you've ever seen somebody that is truly ill, you know, whether they have, like, cancer's one, right, because it eats through the skin. And it's that the body still shows up, you know, and just until it can't. And that's what I said, that the signs and the symptoms are your body's capacity max. So, you know, if we have a chance through using your app and education, if we have a chance with working with people through even, I mean, we specialize in acne. We might have a few other specialties and stuff, but I mean, you know, for case in point is acne, and that congestion is just one little sign to say, help me out. This is what's going on. And in order to do that, the very first step is we have to look at our environment and take out what potentially is causing part of the toxicity or that stress load. So like you said, hey, I had the cortisol and my stress was high. So, you know, we could go back to, you know, everyone just thinks work and family and money. Usually, you know, those are the big stressors, and I have family. And then when we start digging and we start to say, okay, what's the water system like, right? What are we using for dish soap? What are we using for your laundry detergent? These become endocrine disruptors. So when people come in and they're like, I want to work on my hormones, I'm like, great, let's do an overhaul of what's in your house. Because you can use it. And when you use it, because we don't like to throw away money. I don't know if anybody else is. Like, I'm frugal, so it is not happening, right? But I said, then we replace it. And then we replace it with one of these brands. And one of these brands, you know, if they resonate, go smell them, do whatever. You know, sometimes they use essential oils. We can do more when we have more education on it. And that's the starting point, really, it sure is.
A lot of that education of the program, like what came from the program, I think was then starting to learn, of course, I ended up breaking things into pillars, and I'm like, okay, inflammation is one, and what are the foods that I'm eating that are causing inflammation that's also impacting my hormones? And then stress was one for me. And then, of course, like products was also one of those pillars as well. So learning throughout the program too of like how to reduce the inflammation and actually understanding like how much control I have over that too, of what foods I'm consuming and how to support my skin better. That was also very like life-changing, I would say, from what I got from the program.
I love that. Now, let's move back over to the app, because I'm super curious about your comedogenic ratings, right? A comedogenic rating, so for people that don't know, it's how likely a product is to clog pores. Now, the comedogenic rating, it can kind of be all over the place, right? Some of it is based on decades-old studies. So I'm super curious, where does the data that you use come from?
Yeah, in that rating can be like controversial, because sometimes you see different ratings. Different ratings for different products, and sometimes it's not always the same. So I was using some some studies that were from like an acne sourced database, and using that then to train an AI model, because I actually use AI. It's like an AI analysis that's supported in the application. So it's using that AI algorithm to then be trained through the data that I have provided to it. And that's more or less how it's taking that. But then each time it kind of learns too about like what are the impacts, because it's also sourcing from web knowledge as well. And it kind of combines all of that to then give an overall rating to the user of that. This is common to have this comedogenic rating, and like this is why. So it can add like a little bit of explanation to explain more. So then at least you have the knowledge to be able to say, okay, well, actually, maybe I'm not super concerned about that rating because it's mild. And I'm still feel comfortable purchasing the product. But then at least you know, and you can make an informed decision there too.
Absolutely. So one that, there's a couple ingredients that have a lot of discourse around them, right? The coconut oil, the coconut derivatives, like the coconut alkalanes, the shea butters, like there is a little bit of divide on the comedogenic rating. So how does the app view those kind of like in the middle components?
Again, it just kind of will give like a standard of what it's standardized as. But then I think it's up to you as the user to kind of determine. I mean, it's more so just informing like, hey, this is what we're seeing and that this may be a risk for you. But then allowing the user to make that decision themselves, because coconut oil sometimes is okay for people and some people might thrive from it. So it really comes down to what does that mean for your own skin?
Yeah, because it's like, you always want to take into consideration is like where on the ingredient list does that land? Because while it may have something like a shea butter or one that could be typically considered pore-clogging, it's like, well, what's the concentration and how is it in that mix? And what are like the stabilizers and other ingredients? So it's like being able to like take that data in and then decide what that means for your body.
Right. I think the formula sometimes can have a big impact. And that's something that I would look towards in the future of like how to then improve the analysis and see if we can even, what are the options there? Can we identify like how impactful the formula itself is to how it would be to your skin?
Yeah, that would be so cool, right? Because for so many, you're not getting the exact formulation, ingredients and breakdown and ingredients like you would for say like a recipe that you're cooking in the kitchen. So it's like, what I always like to factor is where on the list does it live, because the higher concentrations are going to be first. So yeah, whenever I go through that, I'm just so curious to see how that goes. So for you, if, someone scans a product and there's one ingredient that gets flagged, does that tank the whole product? Like, how should people read those results?
Not necessarily. So there's actually, there will be like an indicator when you scan. So basically you scan the product, like if you're at the store, scan the barcode with your camera. And then there will be like this indicator, which is like green, red, or yellow. And that's really saying like the percentage of the formula that is like comedogenic or can cause pore-clogging. So it'll give you back like a green circle or a yellow circle or a red circle. And that's kind of like the overall like, oh, this is risky. And then if you scroll down, you can then see which ingredients are actually identified as the pore-clogging ingredients. So it kind of takes a combination of like how many ingredients could potentially clog your pores. And then what is the comedogenic rating of those ingredients, and it puts like an overall risk to the product.
I love that. That's really great to be able to see like what the individual ones are and what the overall product would be. And do you find that there's any misconceptions around pore-clogging ingredients?
I mean, there's hundreds of them. So in general, I can't personally even name all of them. And that's another reason of why I had looked to develop this type of tool. Because I was like, who can remember all these ingredient names? Maybe the popular ones, like you had already mentioned, people are aware of. But outside of that, it's very hard to understand what is a pore-clogging ingredient. So having that, the ability to just like easily identify was like the big contributor to providing that tool.
And obviously we've already talked about this, but I'm curious, where do you see like the ingredient checking app fitting into that bigger whole picture of clearing acne?
The thing is like we're putting products on our face every single day. Most of us are. And like we were talking about other products, it's not just skincare. Like we have females in general, like before we even leave the bathroom, we've already been exposed to like hundreds of chemicals. Like we're interacting with like 15 to 30 products in the morning even. So I think it's an important step. I know that it's not the only contributing factor to overall health or acne in general, but it's an important step. And it's just a little step, I think, that somebody can do to start maybe making improvements, because you kind of have control over that. Like maybe some other things you don't always have control over, but you can have control over the products that you're using and putting on your skin. So maybe it's just like when you're taking the first step into going into an acne healing journey, it can almost be overwhelming with all of the lifestyle shifts you might have to make. And this could be maybe a simple, small step to take that could be manageable for somebody.
Cris, we're all about those many small steps for one massive leap, right?
I don't even like a whole lot of little steps. I just,
A couple. I'm fine with two.
I'm just like, listen, I am truly like, how do we get there the fastest? That's how my brain works. But I'm not naive to know that even though how can we get there the fast, that there's all these intricate little pieces that have to go with it. So, but yeah, no, I use soap on my face.
Cris, this is...
I know.
I use good quality soap. I use it from the Bear,
It's fine.
It's clean.
Her
whatever.
skincare routine makes me unwell.
Yeah, she does not enjoy my skincare routine at all, but that's okay.
I'm a maximalist, though. Cris is a minimalist.
Yeah, even our house is a little bit different. Nothing on my countertop. She's got like beautiful bottles on her stuff, and I love looking at it, but I'm like, I'm not doing that, right? So it's like you said, it's no different. That's tolerance. That's her tolerance in her house, mine. But even for the skin, some people do okay with a little bit of coconut oil. And sometimes you can even use coconut oil as a sunscreen. It doesn't actually always burn. Like it depends on certain things. And then there's some people that just react horribly, right? And clog poring. And I think that's also the bio uniqueness of everybody inside. It's also, remember, we have bacteria that comes to the surface. That bacteria is fighting with an antimicrobial as well. So who knows? It's kind of neat to just, sometimes I'm like, I just want to like lay on a raft in a pool and have people teach me all this stuff. I just want to spit out questions. I don't want to research it. I just want to spit questions out and have it answered for me.
And now I'm curious, Marlee, was there something that surprised you in the beginning when you started digging into ingredient data?
Not for like a specific ingredient, I would say, but more so just how many products out there that claim acne safe or good for all skin types. That's my favorite, because I'm like, what does that mean even? I think that was the most surprising is realizing that a lot of the big skincare or big makeup brands, they don't always have, the end user's best intentions. And so as I'm going through and I'm scanning more products, I'm finding all of these. I'm like, man, there's pore-clogging ingredients in a lot of products. And that was quite surprising.
Do you find that the non-comedogenic label on products is even meaningful, or is it basically just a marketing ploy?
It's not regulated. So these claims that skincare companies are using in marketing, they're not regulated, so they don't have to actually like file or submit anything to make the claim. Yeah, so it reduces your confidence in the businesses or the brands, I guess you could say. So it's like, how do you get that confidence back? Ingredient awareness.
100%. And has there ever been a product that you scanned that you're pretty shocked? Like, what? Are you kidding?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot, maybe don't want to like specify certain products, but certainly some brands that I was using, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you're sad because you're like, no, I have to go find a new brand. If indeed you were having an issue as well. But yeah, there's some bigger brands that I was a little surprised to see, especially by the claims that they were making. Because I think we grew up trusting brands, but now I think a lot more people have awareness that that's not necessarily the case. And you really do have to advocate for yourself.
And were there any that you were like surprised at how clean they were?
Yes, like one's like a small brand that I'd never heard of before or something, and I find it and I'm like, okay. Like I didn't expect it. And now that I'm living in Germany, actually a fun fact, I've been scanning products, of course, here too, and everything's in German. So it has actually helped me be able to translate because the app is translating in English. So I scan the product because I'm like, okay, what is this serum? I don't even know what it does. And it'll tell me, like, give me an overview what product I'm even looking at. And that's been nice. But some of the products I've found here too have been surprising.
And would you say that there's a category that's kind of like a minefield when it comes to like pore clogging ingredients, like a foundation or like anything?
Yeah, foundation and moisturizers, because those are the two items that usually, I guess, sit on your face for like the longest. So they tend to have more pore clogging ingredients in them to help with like moisturization and to help it like stay on the skin or sit on top of the skin and everything. So I feel like those are a little bit more risky, and probably I've found with moisturizer, I need to definitely pay more attention to what products I'm choosing there. And that's where the tool has been really helpful.
The moisturization, like foundation, sometimes even SPF, right? Like those are like
yes,
sunscreen's a big one because it's all of that like hydrating, like nourishing ingredients, and that's where a lot of things can really hide. So for you, if there was one thing you could get skincare brands to change, what would it be?
I mean, for me, it would be not being able to put pore clogging ingredients in their formulas, or at least having to be, super transparent about that.
Yeah, it's like if we could have more transparency, because like the average consumer is so difficult when like you go to Sephora or Ulta or like any of the beauty stores and like you're flooded with a sea and thousands of different products. It's really overwhelming when you're turn the back over and try to read through. And like you said, is like there's so many hundreds of different ingredients on there, and like manufacturers can get really clever and they'll start to name things like slight different variations. So like, because like you said, there's no regulations around it. So it can be really overwhelming for a lot of people when they're going into a store and they don't have some type of tool in order to read the products.
Right. And I know that there's like might be a couple tools out there, but you have to you typically like copy and paste ingredient lists, and it's not as convenient when you're just shopping down the aisle trying to run in and grab a quick product. It's not like super convenient for you. And when things aren't convenient, I feel like you tend to maybe be a little bit more lenient on it, and then you end up, I'm in a hurry and I just buy something quick and then realize actually this isn't the best for my skin.
I have actually done that, and I did that recently as somebody who's like in this industry, in this field, who reads ingredient lists. I wasn't paying close enough attention when I like turned it over and I read through it at Sephora, and I was in a rush and I was like, okay, yep, no, that looks good. And I went back, I got ready, and then the next day, like I sat down and I actually looked at it deeper, and then I went, like you said, is I went and opened up a thing, I went and copy and pasted it in, and it's a big process. And then when I looked the next day, I was like, oh man, I didn't see there was that ingredient. I ended up having to return it because I checked it too fast in the store.
Right, exactly. And I think too, like what I want to avoid is like creating fear of products, because I think when you have acne, you end up kind of getting fear of everything. Like you start fearing the food you're eating, fearing, sweating too much, fearing the makeup and everything. So the main goal of the ingredient awareness, like I don't really want to push towards like fearing ingredients, but at least being knowledgeable of them.
Yeah, it's like having that feeling empowered that you know what you're putting on your body and your skin, and then making that decision, like, is this something that I want to use or something that I don't want to use? Because it's all about having that knowledge and that awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
So if people want to go and learn more about Klenzera, where can they do that?
So I do have a website, Klenzera, www.klenzera.com, and we're also on Instagram. And I know that that's typically the easiest way, I think, to get in touch and communicate. Can always be in the DMs there. So and it's just at Klenzera on Instagram is a good way.
Well, I will put all of that in the show notes. So if you guys want to go and check out Klenzera, I highly recommend you do that. Marlee, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and talking all about ingredient transparency.
You're welcome. It was the best time. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody, that's another episode here at Keep It Clear. We will see you next week.